Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
It's estimated that they're responsible for approximately 45 murders that we're aware of.
Damn.
Numerous robberies. If you add the extortion in, these people were a decade long or better crime wave in themselves. They were just amazing, the devastation that they caused.
He sat right down in a room and told me exactly what happened. He looked me right in the eye and said, I couldn't let that boy live after what had happened.
On December 5th, 1989, 12-year-old Donnell Porter was walking to elementary school alone. He never made it to class that day.
I used to this morning and about a half hour ago. I smoked about 5 crack about a half hour ago. And I wish I had 2 more.
All right, once again, are these reports overblown?
When I first got here 6 months ago, I got a briefing on crack. My original estimate was this may be a fad that is being overblown. Since then, I have completely changed my mind. It is a drug that has almost taken over New York as the drug of choice, and I think the reasons that it has taken over New York are valid in the rest of the country. My personal estimate is we will, in the near future, see crack becoming one of the drugs of choice in the United States.
How long have you been an agent, and does anything compare to what you've seen here?
I've been a federal drug agent for 21 years, and I have never seen a drug phenomenon like this anywhere.
What do you mean?
I have never seen a drug so quickly become popular in across-the-board socioeconomic groups. This is a drug that started in the ghettos of Harlem, is now widely accepted in the poorest as well as the richest communities. We see kids from the most wealthy suburbs using it. We see kids from the poorest ghetto using it. We jokingly in our office say it's a drug that started on 145th Street and went to 42nd Street in 3 months. And 3 months after that, it went from 42nd Street to the entire Northeast.
I come to solve the problem. What you talking about, eh? 132 Harlem. Torture for crack. 12-year-old kid kidnapped. What's going on, Black? I don't know for sure, but Prince ain't go out like that. Yeah, cause he was too clever. He kept the 9 and vest underneath the leather. It had to be someone he know. Yo, hey, you don't know for sure. It could have been Larry, Curly, and Mo. Forget that. It had to be someone he trusts. Cause I know for sure my man Prince was bust off the toast. He was known from coast to coast to get paid. From way back in the days, he was a good guy. He always stayed fly. Whoever in the world thinks literate rich would die. But it's over. Time to get sober.
And this award is given posthumously to our student who was tragically taken from us this year, William Donnell Porter, and accepting the award is his sister, Patricia Porter.
Yeah, we back. Shay's Popalot. Mob ties. We on our way to NYC with it. Headshot City. Y'all go ahead and meet us uptown. Harlem. It's the get money era. Even though this story predates back to the 1970s. Now, today, it is going to be, in my estimation, that we are going to be covering one of the most scariest, the most notorious, as well as one of the most mysterious people to come out of this era. And with that being said, I'm talking about no other than Clarence Preacher Heatley. But it sounds so much more scarier when you call him the Black Hand of Death. I spoke on how mysterious the legacy of Clarence Heatley is, as there's not much online or not too many shows that document just how violent and sinister the government say he truly was. And that fact helped me a lot explain how truly mysterious as well as scary he was, because during the course of my research, I would go on to count more videos of drug dealers from that time and that era discussing who Preacher was and some of the notorious acts that he was involved in, a lot easier than I can find any video as far as a documentary, news footage on who the Black Hand of Death actually was. So, not including the request or the notoriety surrounding him, I found it imperative to make this video. Now, Preacher, who would be taken down by the notorious C11 squad that went through New York and pretty much dismantled a lot of the high-powered drug organizations, and members of that C11 squad would go on to speak of the outrageous numbers of murders that not only Preacher, but his organization, the Preacher Crew, was involved in. And in some cases, they said it was upwards of 45, with the most heinous of those murders being that of Darnell Porter that occurred in late 1989, early 1990. So with all the rumors surrounding Preacher, with probably the most craziest one being told by an alleged associate or member of the Preacher Crew, David Collins, he would explain how he would help in a plot in 1993 to kidnap then R&B icon Bobby Brown over a alleged $25,000 drug debt. There would be several rumors about how Preacher obtained this drug debt from a drug dealer that was unable to reach Bobby Brown. No matter how it was obtained, the rumor would end with the Preacher Crew having Bobby Brown hogtied while his wife, the late great Whitney Houston, was contacted, and he was essentially sold back to her for a $400,000 ransom. Now, whether that is true or not, what is true is that when the authorities eventually caught up with Preacher in the mid-90s, he was facing a death penalty case, as just the murders alone read ridiculously, as they charged him with the murder of a guy by the name of James Stacy Addison on April 4th, 1986. He would also be charged with the murder of Darnell Porter, which they say occurred in between December 5th of 1989 and January 20th of 1990. Then he would be charged with the murder of James Stewart on September 4th of 1991. 2 years later, on April 29th, 1993, the authorities would allege that he would participate in the murder of Mark Luker. Then you have Charles Whitaker in July of 1993. Then you have the attempt murder of Stanley Campbell on September 9th, 1993, followed by the murder of Stanley Campbell just days later on September 15th, 1993. And you can go ahead and top that off with the murder of a guy by the name of Robert Riley on April 26th of 1995. Now, even though Preacher stood at around 6'7", he was not the only scary member of that Preacher Crew. And another person that is often mentioned, as they should be, is going to be his most trusted lieutenant, and a person that some will call the second in command of the Preacher Crew, as well as Preacher's driver and bodyguard. And that's going to be a guy by the name of John Big Cuz Cuff, or Jack Cuff. Now, Cuff, who would be named as Preacher's chief lieutenant, would meet Preacher in the early 1980s while he was an officer with the New York City Housing Authority Police Department. But the organization had upwards of 20 members, with some of the most well-known members being David Halestock, Rich Porter's uncle John Apple Porter, as well as Anthony Malik Boatwright, who they would say would be responsible for the murder of Darnell Porter. and coincidentally, a person who preacher would order John Cuff to lure and kill eventually. So as the case may be, and a lot of the rumors that go around when people describe preacher, nobody was safe. And when I say that, I mean that in the most literal sense possible, as in his indictment, where the government would say that his acts qualified for the death penalty. They were going to say that during his incarceration at various state prisons in the 1970s and early 1980s, Clarence Heatley would sexually molest other inmates. So he was just a really foul and sinister individual. And when you run in a channel like Mob Ties and you trying to explain or tie in situations to the streets, it's literally impossible to tell the story without telling the story of Clarence Preacher Heatley and the Preacher crew. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. Y'all getting the comment box flooded, especially if you was there at that time. Y'all get down there and let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we missed, what gangsters we got to cover. And I'm going to be back with more ASAP, man. Shit got Popalot. Y'all know how we rocking. Mob, gang.